Hi everyone and welcome back to part 12. So first of all I would like to request you all to make sure to like and also comment. That will actually help this video to reach more audience. So in the last part we actually created the group page, and here we created only this part where we can show the user all the groups they are connected to. Now we have to create this form, okay, in which user can actually name a group and also add members to it. So in the Figma design you can find this create group screen, okay, and we are going to create this type of form where the user will just have to type the group name and select the members. Okay, so let's get started. So in our app you can actually go inside this source directory. Then first of all we are going to open this group page, okay, that we created in the last part. Now here we have to just actually import a dialog box, okay, which will contain our form. But to create that we are going to navigate inside this sections directory, okay. Then we can create a new folder here and that will be main, okay. So here I am going to just create a new file and this will be create group, okay. So we can create this file, and after this I am going to create a react functional component here, okay. Let's just rename it correctly. So this will be create group. So our first task is to actually render a dialog box here. When we click on this button then a dialog box should appear. Now we have already implemented dialog box in this project, so I'm just going to recap that, okay. So you can actually search for it, and here you can see inside contact.js file we have implemented this dialog box, and we are going to do the same thing again, okay. So we'll be using this transition effect which will make our dialog box to slide from the bottom in the up direction, okay. So let's get started and implement it. So the first thing that we need here is a dialog box. So that is going to come from material UI, right? And here we will be passing a title and some content, okay. So I'm leaving a comment for that, but before doing the title and content part we have to provide some props here. The first one will be full width, okay, and we are going to restrict its width to XS, that means up to extra small screen size, right? Then in order to maintain whether it's open or closed we will be taking props open and handle close, okay. So I have destructured those here, okay, otherwise we will have to write using the dot notation. So we can just pass that property here open. This will basically be a boolean value, okay. And for the transition effect, okay, and if you don't remember then you can just visit MUI.com and search for dialog box here, okay. So if we search for dialog then you can see here we have a simple dialog box, and this is the transition effect dialog box. This is going to slide in, okay. So we are creating this one. So for that we have to provide this transition component, okay. So this is going to be actually a react component. We are going to create it, okay, just like we did in the contact.js. So you can see we have created this transition component here. I'm just going to copy it and implement it here. So as a side note we can write that we can, because we are using it multiple times, this transition effect, so we can actually move it inside the component directory, okay. So I'll be leaving a comment here, create a reusable component, okay. So we'll do it later on when we will be focusing on refactoring our app. And here we need to import this slide which is going to come from material UI. This is also a material UI's core component, okay. So let me move this react statement to the top. And now after we have provided this transition effect, next thing we can do is we can pass this keep mounted. this is going to make sure that our dialog box remains mounted even if like we press outside the dialog box. Okay, and after that we can provide this sx, okay, for just some styling. So we'll be passing some padding here, okay, to the content that will be rendered inside the dialog box. So for that purpose we have given this padding for. Now we can just quickly render a title and test if this is working or not. Okay, so we are going to use dialog title component for that purpose. Okay, and here I will be passing this text create new group. Okay, so now we can actually use this create group dialog box inside this group.js page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write a condition here. If open dialog is true, okay, so if open dialog is true, then only we are going to render this component which is named create group. Okay, now as we have defined here, we need to pass these two props open and handle close. Okay, so let's just pass that here, and to actually pass these props we'll have to maintain a local state in this component. So we have again done that previously inside context.js, so just to save some time I'm going to copy it from here. Okay, so like this we can create a state, okay, in this group.js file. I'm just going to rename it quickly to open dialog and set open dialog. Right, now after this we can create these two functions here, okay, for opening and closing. So let's just create for the closing. For opening we can just use the set open dialog. So handle close dialog, this will be passed as a prop. Here we are just going to call this set open dialog and pass false to it. Okay, now we can just use this function, okay, and reference it here, and when it's going to be open, then that will be defined by this open dialog boolean. Okay, this is the boolean property. Now in order to open it we are going to click on this icon button. So here I will be writing this on click event listener, and inside this we can pass a callback here, and we can just call set open dialog here and set its value to true. Okay, now we have done this. Let's see where is the error. Okay, we need to import this use state, okay, from the React library. Now that is done, let's save it. Okay, we can go back to our app and let's refresh it. Now I'm just going to click on this plus button and you can see we have implemented this dialog box. Okay, and we can now focus on building just the form. Okay, so I hope you can actually understand how we break things into smaller pieces. Okay, now this is done, so we can actually focus on this content part. So here we will be using another MUI component and it's called dialog content. Okay, so you can actually find all of this information on MUI.com. Okay, if you wish to read more about it, you can just go through the documentation. Now here we actually going to create a form. Okay, we have already done this for the authentication part, so the form will be exactly same, just the fields are going to be different. And since this form is only going to be used inside this particular component, I'll be creating it here at the top for now. Okay, or let's just create it after this transition component. Okay, so let's just create this form, create group form. Okay, and I see some questions in the chat. Okay, I'll be answering that after creating this form. So the first thing that we are going to do here is we'll be defining a schema just like we did for the login form. Okay, and to recap that, let me just show you that one quickly. Okay, so as you can see in the when we created the login form, okay, then we created this type of schema that was meant for the validation, okay, and also to define like what is going to be the type of this email and whether it is required or not. Okay, so similarly we will be defining that here for the create form group. So we can just write new group schema. Okay, and for this we are going to use this EF library, okay, that we imported in a previous part. So on the EF library we can call this object method. Now let me just import the EF library and we can just copy it from the login form. Okay, now on this object we can call the shape, which will be used to define our schema. Okay, now here we are going to list all of the properties that will be collected inside our form. So as you can see in the Figma file, we have this group name, or you can also say title, okay, and this members input component. Okay, this is basically collecting a array, okay, a list of all the members. So let's see how we can implement exactly that. So for the title we are just going to write yep dot string. Okay, that means its type should be string, and since this is a required prop, so we are going to write this required statement here, sorry, required method. And if the user doesn't provide this property in the form, then we are going to display this message, title is required. Okay, so you can pass that message in this function or method. Okay, now for the members property that will be there, okay, we can just again use this yep, and here we are going to use a different data type, and that will be array. Okay, because this is going to be a list of members, and as a compulsion we are going to specify that there should be at least 2 members selected in order to create a group. Okay, so we are going to apply this rule min with the value of 2, and if the user hasn't selected 2 members at least, then we will be displaying this error message, must have at least 2 members. Okay, so I think this is very clear. Okay, now the next thing is to actually use this schema to create a form. Okay, now for that we also need to define another thing, and that is default values. Okay, so default values we are just going to keep it empty for now. So the title, it's going to be null. Okay, and for the members it's going to be an empty array. Okay, that means nothing is there in the list. Now we need to create this methods again. Okay, since we are using React hook form library, so we can use this use form hook, which is going to come from the React hook form library. Okay, and then we can pass the configuration to it. So we are going to pass 2 properties. The first one is going to be resolver, and resolver is basically going to make use of this yep resolver that we have installed previously, and to this we need to pass the schema that we just created. Then we can specify the default values. Okay, now from this method we can extract various properties just like we did in the login form. So let me just show you. So we can get all of these properties like reset function, set error, handle submit. Okay, this handle submit is going to be used, okay, in this form provider, as you can see. So let's just copy it from here. Okay, then we will keep whatever we need. So for now I'm just going to add few other properties, watch. Okay, and yeah, watch is going to do the task. After that we need is submitting and is valid property here. So let me just get is valid. Okay, and you can learn more about it in the documentation, or I'll be creating a separate series on React hook form as well. Okay, this is a very extensive library. It is actually handling most of the tasks. Okay, otherwise building forms in React is going to be a tough task. There are other libraries, but I like this personally. Okay, so we have created this on submit function, which will be called when we are submitting the form, and all of the properties that are filled inside this form like title and members, that will be available as this data property here. So we can just write this try and catch block here. Okay, we'll be actually making an API call when we'll be integrating the backend. So if the API call is going to fail, in that case we'll be just console logging the error. Okay, error and then error message, whatever we get here. And in the try case, I'm just going to leave a comment here, API call. Okay, and here we can just, for the reference, we can just write console log and log this data, whatever we get as this form's input. So this is now done. Okay, we can now create the JSX part here in this form. So we just need to return some JSX from this create group form, and for that the first thing is going to be form provider. Okay, so form provider is going to wrap our form. Okay, and it is going to connect all of the like buttons and all of the components, input components, okay, together. So here we need to pass these methods. Okay, you can refer back to the login form. Okay, if you get, like, if you are implementing it on your own later, then you can just watch this login form, how we have created this. Okay, and after that there is another mandatory prop, and that is on submit. So here we just need to pass this handle submit first, which is coming from this methods. Okay, and then to this we are going to pass on submit. Okay, I think the sound was not clear. I have placed the microphone closer. I hope it is clear now. Okay, so I'll make sure to check that, okay, from the next stream. And now we just need to actually group two things together, this input component, okay, and also this button. So that's why we are going to use this stack again, and the default direction is going to kick in, that is column, so we don't need to specify that. And for the spacing, let's just use 3. Now let's actually implement this first input component, okay, which is going to be a simple text field. Okay, so I'm going to write RHF text field. This is a control component, okay, input component that we created earlier. Okay, so RHF text field, and to this we just need to provide this name and label prop. So the name is going to be just what we defined in the schema, okay, title. And okay, so let's just write title, and for the label, whatever we want to show to the user, okay, on the UI, like if you want to label it as name, you can pass name here. Okay, that doesn't have to be same as this name. Okay, so just for the consistency, I'm just going to write title here. Now I'm going to save this and also use that form here inside the dialog content, create group form. It is defined inside the same file. Okay, now after saving this, let's just go back. Okay, I'm going to refresh this, and now you can see we have our form here. Okay, we need to fix the spacing and all. We can do that now, but before that we are going to focus on building this second input component. This is a little bit different, so let's see how we can do this. Now for this I'm going to show you MUI documentation. Here we have a component which is called autocomplete. Okay, and this is actually going to handle what we are trying to achieve. Okay, like this is just a simple drop down. Okay, you can select one at a time, but we can also create multiple drop down. Okay, like we can select multiple values at a time. That can also be done. Okay, so we are going to just implement this one. So let's actually go back to the components folder here, and inside this we are going to go inside this hook form again. Now here we will be creating a new control component, and that will be called RHF autocomplete. Okay, this will be a drop down. Okay, just going to show a list of all the users, and user can select whatever members they want to add. Okay, so this is going to be actually pretty much same as this RHF text field. The only difference is going to be inside this render method. Okay, here we are going to pass autocomplete instead of this text field. So I'm just going to copy this, okay, and paste it here, and then we'll be making whatever changes are needed. So in place of this RHF text field, we'll be first replacing it with RHF autocomplete. Okay, and after that we are actually going to take whatever properties. Let's just define those here. So the first one is name. Okay, then we are also going to take another property called label here. So let me just define its type in the validation here. That is also going to be a string. Okay, we can do the same for the text field. I just forgot to add that here. You can just copy it, okay, and paste it here, save it. And now after that, this is just, we can like extract label here since we are taking it as a prop, okay, in this autocomplete. And here we will be actually using this set value function as well from this use form context. Now this controller name, okay, this is going to be the same. Now we can come to this part, render. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is to change this text field to autocomplete. And as I just showed you, autocomplete is a component inside Material UI library. Okay, now we are going to destructure all of these field properties that we get. Okay, then we can specify an on change property here. This is going to be an important thing. Okay, we can't leave it like, we have to define it. Okay, so here we'll be getting event as the first prop, or the first value, and the second is going to be the new value, okay, which will be added whenever we select a new value from the drop down. Okay, so we will be calling this set value function that we just extracted from this use form context. Okay, and then here we can pass the name, okay, whatever the new values we are trying to add to the list. Okay, and here is like object that we can pass. Okay, it is going to actually take some options. So we can pass this should dirty, should touch, or should validate. Okay, so here we just need should validate. That means whenever a new member or a new value is going to be added, then that is going to be validated, okay, first. And also this autocomplete isn't just going to work by itself. We also need to provide it a render component, okay, or render input. So we want it to behave like just a text field. Okay, it will be looking just like the text field. The only difference is it is going to display a drop down, and whenever we select something, then that will be added to as a chip. Okay, so inside this render input we can just pass a callback here. Okay, so let's just return text field. You can find more about it, okay, on the Material UI documentation, like how we can implement autocomplete. Okay, and here we can just pass the label. Let's just pass it, then error. Okay, we can actually just take it from here, error. And after that we also need to like pass the helper text, so we can just cut it out from there and give it to text field. So what is actually happening, this autocomplete is going to just display a list, okay, and it's going to make this behavior like whenever we select, then multiple items will be selected. We'll be passing a multiple prop for that. Okay, and the rest of the task is going to be done by just the text field. Okay, now after this we just need to pass all of the params here. So let's just destructure that, and we are going to actually get all of these params as this in this callback. Okay, now let's just save this, and we are going to use it inside our form. So here we can use another input component, and that will be RHF autocomplete that we just created. Okay, now here we will be actually going to create a list of all the members that will be coming from the API. Okay, but at the moment we don't have a backend. Okay, so we need to just pass a dummy list here, so we'll be just creating that. Before that we can pass this name property here. Okay, we have just as you have seen, we use this members label. Okay, so we need to pass it here. And for the label property, again I'm going to keep it consistent, so members. Okay, now there are other properties like we just discussed. We are going to provide this multiple prop. Okay, which is going to allow multiple items or multiple items, you can say, from the list to be selected at once. Okay, that is just what we want. And you can see here we have a free solo. Okay, so whenever we want to add a new value, okay, then we can just pass this free solo prop here. Okay, and after this, the last option or the mandatory prop that we are going to pass here is option. Options is basically going to define what will be displayed inside this list. Okay, so for that let's just create a dummy list here at the top. So I'm just going to write few strings here. Okay, so let's just keep it all caps because this is just a constant for now. Okay, so const members, and then like let's say name1, name2, and so on. Let's just keep 3 for now. Okay, now I'm going to use this members inside this options prop. Okay, so we just need to map over it. Okay, we are going to take each option and then just we'll be passing that string or returning that from this map. Okay, basically options accepts a list of strings. Okay, we can just pass it directly, but in the case when we will be implementing our API, okay, we'll be integrating it with the front end, then we might have other data like users avatar, okay, their ID and their name. So we'll be just mapping over that list and giving their names. Okay, that's it. And for the chips that will be displayed, we can pass another prop here which will be chip props. Okay, and by chip props what we are actually trying to customize is when these chips will be displayed, as you can see here, then we can specify some props for that. So we are going to pass their size. Okay, and we'll be keeping it to medium. Okay, just like we have defined in our Figma file. Okay, so now I'm going to format this document, save it. Okay, after it's compiled, let's go back to our app. Okay, and let's see. Okay, we get this list. Okay, and when we are selecting, then you can see we get this chip. Okay, and it is also following our validation, and it's saying that must have at least 2 members. So when we select the 2 members, then the error message is gone. Okay, now let's just focus on the last component that we have to render here, and that is the create button. So for the button, I'm just going to actually use a stack. Okay, that will be created in right inside this stack. Okay, here what is the purpose of using this stack? I just want to align this create button at the end. Okay, so that is why I'm using that stack, so I can get benefit from the flex properties. Okay, so here I'll be just giving some spacing here first of all, and that will be 2. Okay, then for the direction, since I want to place this at the end in the horizontal direction, I'll be giving the direction as row. Okay, now for the align items, it's very clear. Okay, it is going to be center. We want it to be at the center horizontally, and like the line which is passing through its center, that should pass through its exact center. Okay, that's what I mean. and in the for this justify content we want it to be end so that it's placed at the right corner. Okay, now here we can place this button, okay, which is a component from material UI. We have used it several times, and now I'm just going to pass the text here, which will be create. Okay, and for the type, as you already know, we need to give this type prop, okay, which and its value can be button, simple button, or a submit. In the case of form, we need to set it to submit. Okay, then only when we click this button, then this on submit is going to be triggered. Okay, keep that in mind. And for that variant property, just for styling, we are going to keep it to contain like we have designed in the Figma. Okay, now after saving this, let's go back again, and you can see we get our create button. And for canceling the form, like we don't want to create the group anymore, then we can just use a cancel button. So let's also add that here. I'm just going to use this button component again, write the cancel text here, and when this button is clicked, then we'll be calling handle close. Okay, and this handle close is basically coming into this create group as a prop, and then we'll be passing it to form. Okay, handle close, just like this. We can again get that, okay, by destructuring here. So handle close, and that will be called whenever we click this cancel button. Now you can see when we are clicking on the cancel button, we can easily exit from this form. Now just to fix the spacing here, okay, between the title and the content, what we can do here is we can just provide this title, create new group. Okay, we can provide some styling to it, like margin bottom. We can give it this value of 2. Let's just try it out, and yeah, this spacing is looking good. We can just increase it to 3. Okay, and it's much better now. So we have created this group form. Okay, and let me just check. Yeah, we are at 9:33. So what I'm going to do is we'll be creating the page call. Okay, and let's just set up the route for that, and we'll be creating the list call logs. Okay, and a searchable list, just like a pop-up here, as defined in our Figma file in the next part. Okay, so let's create a new page and set up route. So you can just, what I'm going to do is close all of the open editors, okay, then collapse all this. Now we can just, after cleaning this, move inside the pages, then again dashboard, and create a new file. This will be called call.js. Okay, let's just create a React functional component again here. This will be just named call. Okay, now we again need to go inside the routes folder, then index.js file, then we again need to import that. So I'm just going to import that right after this settings page. Okay, so this will be called call page. Okay, I'll be calling it that. Then we can make use of this loadable and lazy functions that we created in the first part. Okay, then pass this callback and the path. So pages, then inside pages, dashboard, and call.js. Right, now to render it, we just need to add one more children here. Okay, so I'll be adding that right after this group. Path is going to be call. Okay, and element is going to be call page. Okay, after correcting the syntax, okay, writing this comma, let's just format it. Okay, save it, and then we can go back to our app, just refresh it. Okay, because just we have added one new route to this application. Then we can visit this call page. Okay, and if you are able to see this call text here, that means the route is set it up correctly. So we have just initialized it. Okay, we'll be doing it further in the next part at the same time tomorrow. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching this. Okay, and you got to know how we can create that drop down input component. Okay, so make sure to press the thumb button. Okay, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you get stuck in anything, okay, then you can just always join this Discord group. Okay, we have 100 plus members here and the community is very active. Okay, so I'll encourage you to join this. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.